Russia running low on weapons and suffering under economic sanctions.
For over 2 years, Western media outlets have repeatedly sounded the alarm. Russia is running out of weapons, ammo, and manpower. Headlines warned of crumbling supply chains, depleted stockpiles, and troops forced to fight with outdated equipment. The narrative was compelling. Russia, bogged down in Ukraine, on the verge of collapse. But a closer look tells a different story. Behind the smoke and noise, Russia is not only sustaining its war effort, it's quietly ramping up weapons production and building one of the largest missile stockpiles in recent history. So, is Russia truly on the ropes, or has the West underestimated its long-term capabilities? From the early days of the Ukraine war, Western reporting painted a picture of an overstretched and poorly supplied Russian army. In a February 2025 article, Al Jazeera reported that Russian troops were using donkeys, motorcycles, and even civilian vehicles to deliver supplies to the front lines. Ukrainian strikes on logistics routes and ammo depots seem to have taken their toll. Additional reports highlighted the heavy losses of Russian tanks and armored vehicles. Analysts cited that Russia was increasingly relying on outdated Soviet-era equipment pulled from storage and hastily refurbished to replace battlefield losses. This, for many, was the proof they needed. Russia was burning through its supplies and lacked the industrial muscle to recover. But this view may have overlooked one critical factor: adaptation. While the image of donkeys and motorcycles may capture public imagination, they don't tell the whole story. In the same Al Jazeera piece, it's noted that Russia has not only restored thousands of old vehicles, but is still managing to produce up to 60 new tanks a year. That may sound modest by NATO standards, but it represents a consistent output, one that's now being supplemented by international suppliers, like Iran and China. The clearest sign that Russia's military supply lines are not just intact, but expanding, came in April 2025. According to another media source, Russia has built up a massive missile stockpile, about over 200 Kh-101 cruise missiles, and at least 300 Iskander-M ballistic missiles. These numbers are not symbolic, they're strategic. The buildup was serious enough to prompt NATO to raise its alert level across Eastern Europe. This stockpile didn't appear overnight. It's the product of a focused effort to mobilize Russia's defense industry for prolonged war. While many Western leaders assumed sanctions would cripple Moscow's war-making capabilities, Russia turned to its Cold War playbook. As Responsible Statecraft reports, the Russian defense industry has continued churning out artillery shells and munitions at a rate that now outpaces the US and its NATO allies. How is this possible? The key lies in legacy infrastructure. Russia never fully dismantled its Soviet-era industrial base. Many of its old factories remained intact, outdated but operational. When the war began, these facilities were reactivated and retooled. In contrast, the US and Europe, having downsized their arms industries in the post-Cold War years, are now scrambling to rebuild supply chains from scratch. Ironically, while Western media was mocking Russia's use of World War II-style logistics, those very strategies were allowing Moscow to sustain, and now scale up, its military efforts. So, why does the running out narrative persist in Western media? Part of it is wishful thinking. For governments and populations tired of funding Ukraine's defense, the idea that Russia is nearing collapse is reassuring. It helps justify delays in aid or policy shifts. It also serves as psychological warfare, undermining Russian morale while bolstering Ukrainian resolve. But more than that, it reflects a deeper misunderstanding of how Russia wages war. Western analysts often expect quick, high-tech victories. Russia, by contrast, embraces attrition, endurance, and scale. It doesn't need shiny new equipment. It needs equipment that works and can be produced in volume. The emphasis on visual signs of weakness, like old trucks or patchwork uniforms, distracts from the underlying fact: Russia is still producing, still stockpiling, and still fighting. The danger of buying too deeply into the running out narrative is that it leads to strategic miscalculations. If the West believes Russia's war effort is unsustainable, they may wrongly assume time is on Ukraine's side. But current trends suggest otherwise. Russia's ability to maintain high levels of missile production, refurbish older systems, and continue frontline operations shows that it's preparing for a long war. Meanwhile, the US and its allies face their own limitations. Ukraine continues to plead for ammunition, and Western industry still struggles to meet demand fast enough. What if, instead of Russia, it's the West that's falling behind in the arms race? The narrative that Russia is running out of weapons may have once reflected hope, but hope is not a strategy. The reality is that Russia, far from collapsing, is building towards sustained war. It has the industrial base, the political will, and the strategic patience to keep going. That doesn't mean Russia is invincible, but it does mean that underestimating its capacity is a mistake the West can no longer afford. If we want to understand the trajectory of this war, it's time to look beyond the headlines and start paying attention to the assembly lines. Stay informed, stay engaged, and thank you for being a part of this discussion. We'll be back soon with more information.